Hello, my name's Steve and you are listening to the Go Footballing Podcast. So this is the podcast that talks all about grassroots football, whether you are a coach, a player, parent, referee, or just got a love for the game. Sit tight, you're in the right place. So on the lineup this week, episode 17, we are going to be talking about parents on the sideline, supportive or adding pressure. So let's not wait any longer, let's get into it. So before we do start, a big thank you to all the returning listeners. It's growing week by week, which is what I was looking forward to, and that's been great. So big thanks to everyone that's coming back in and listening to the podcast. And also notice some new listeners this week on Spotify and also on Amazon Music. So a big thank you if you're a brand new listener. If you ever want to get in touch with me, that's absolutely great. That'd be nice to find out if you want any episodes doing on particular topics or something that may be happening in one of the previous podcasts as well. Just contact me. You can do that by getting me on gofootballpod@gmail.com, and yeah, we'll make a podcast regarding some of the subjects that you're looking for too. So this week though, we are looking at parents on the sideline as well, support or pressure. So listen, if you're a parent, you're a player, you're a coach, you're a referee, you'll know that parents are often on the sideline watching the games, right the way through from the under-7s, right the way through to the under-18s. In fact, I refereed an under-18s cup final last week, I think it was. Massive crowd, actually, for it as well. And also, there was a little Barmy Army there as well, banging seats and chanting along. Felt like I was at Wembley Stadium. There was probably like 10 of them, to be fair, just chanting. But, really good atmosphere as well. And I'll post a little bit more about that at some point soon. Really, really great to be an official on a cup final. Just going back to the parents' side of things. Look, are we adding support or are we adding pressure to players? Well, look, I suppose let's just start off with a bit of statistic because I'm a stats kind of guy with it all the way. But what does the research say? So in 2017, I know this is a while ago, all right, I don't know, we've had COVID and everything since then, haven't we? Loughborough University found that 45% of children said that negative sideline behaviour from parents, coaches, reduced their enjoyment of the game. Understandable, especially if it's under 6s, under 7s, under 8s, under 9s, right the way through. Even the older age groups, the amount of time that I go and see some under 15s to under 18s go and play, the amount of shouting that comes on, I don't believe is always positive, although I don't believe it's always negative either. I think there's got to be a bit of a medium between the both of them. And I suppose different people need different things to be able to thrive. However, what I've always said is that children and young players of probably all ages really thrive under praise. So the more praise they get, the more enjoyment they're going to be getting. So let's just say what some initiatives have been done already, because there is a couple of initiatives that are already in place. These are here to kind of stamp out the negative side of it, really. But, silent sideline initiatives, already in place. So we have silent sideline weekends where only coaches can give instructions. Parents are just encouraged to kind of just enjoy and, watch silently, cheer at moments. You're not saying like if a goal, if your kid scores a goal, you're going to start cheering and clapping. So, but only at key kind of moments as well. They're very much aimed also to let children think independently so they can make decisions. It'll reduce pressure on them to be able to play. They can just enjoy the football that they're gone to go and play. Just hearing the claps and all the, the cheers of all the things that they are doing right, being able to listen to their coach and hear that, work as a team and like I say, really importantly as well, make their own decisions when they're playing, because the more decisions that they can make themselves, the better players they're going to get and the more development they'll get to as well. So I think that's a really good initiative. Now, does that happen? Now I can tell you that on the last Silent Sideline initiative, I was a coach and I was a referee on that weekend for, I think I coached 2 games. I think I refereed 2 games too. I can tell you that was definitely not a silent sideline initiative was in place in all of them, okay? I think a lot of parents did a great job, by the way, just sitting there, just enjoying the game, watching, praising the children, praising the players that were on there. But there's always one, isn't there? There's always one that's a little bit more vocal, should we say. And do you know what? It's probably fine sometimes, but is it pressure or is it support? So, I mean, if we're looking at the kind of things that we would want to do for young players, praise and support is the kind of things that we'd be looking to do as well. What would we be looking to do? Well, if we can give some positive reinforcement to the things that they are doing. So like on the silent weekends, clapping, cheering at the right times, as opposed to just shouting on, do this, do that. That's better for them. The same as, the way that we can word things for someone, rather than if they kick something, maybe they take a shot and it misses as well, is, the positive reinforcement is as well, great, you're actually taking shots, great effort, good effort, as opposed to, what was that? Why don't you make a pass? Why don't you just pass it in? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because next time, is that helping their development or not helping their development? And also think about it, if you were at work and someone's constantly over your shoulder, do this, do that, do it like this, do it like that. I always refer it back to when I'm trying to cook, and I use the words trying to cook because that's exactly what it is. It's not actually cooking, it's just trying to cook. I mean, if you want beans on toast, I'm a master, but anything else, you're pretty stuck with me, unfortunately. But just having someone over your shoulder all the time, just saying, do this, cut them like this, add this now, add that now. If you already know what to do, or you've got a good idea of it, or you've got your way of doing it, then that's the way that you should be doing it. And I suppose that's what we also need to think of with some positive reinforcement, from the sidelines. There's loads of examples of what you can kind of say and what you should really be saying too, but positive reinforcement and encouragement, it can boost confidence. It can boost their enjoyment of the game, and also probably even their efforts as well. If someone's really up for a game and they're really motivated, and you're giving them loads of encouragement from the sideline, especially parents, if they're giving loads of encouragement out as well, they probably will run for a ball that looks like it might be going out, as opposed to if they've absolutely, been shattered with confidence of like, oh, you should have got for it. Why are you not running? Why are you not doing this? They might not even try running for it too, But, that's just part of what it is that we can say. I would always say that, sideline support, is it helpful? Is it harmful? Well, I would always say some sideline support that can help is, encouragement. Definitely is going to always help. Now, encouragement has to be positive and it has to be good all the way through, really, because, everyone can hear what you're saying. I think motivation and confidence building as well, hearing things like cheers at the right times, or even if it's for fair play, can help build self-esteem for young players. That's great too. So parents, if you're doing these things, that's amazing, and your children are really going to love it. And the rest of the team are also going to thrive off that too. If you're that mum or that dad that's there, that's constantly cheering for that team, it doesn't matter which kid in that team that your child's in as well has got the ball as well, they're all going to feel good. And if they all feel good as a team, your child's going to feel better too, So that's always a good thing. And, it'll help their bond between them, as parents. It'll have, they'll always know you as the positive one, you're probably more approachable. And sometimes we just need a calm atmosphere. Sometimes it just needs to be nice and calm, because we can encourage from the sideline and also keep it nice and calm. And that includes, the way that you're talking about things like your coaches, the other players, the other team, the referee. They're all kind of things that are promoting a positive atmosphere. And I think they can really help, because I think if you start turning into something negative, that's only going to go onto the pitch, And I've got, loads of experiences where there's been something the negative and the energy off the pitch has come onto the pitch, And that's not just from parents' side. Sometimes I've had that from coaches too, where I've had two coaches that have been arguing on the sideline, and there have been sort of like no fouls, and it's like a kind of an easy, nice, flowing game as well. But one little decision that went differently for both coaches, or they both thought that there was a different decision to be made there. They started arguing, and all of a sudden there's 3 or 4 fouls that have been given away within 5 minutes, And that's just the energy off the pitch coming on the pitch. And if you're watching a game and you're one of the parents that are watching, and you're watching one of these games that are going on, and you're going to be negative about it, well, generally that negativity that you're giving is going to impact everyone that's on that pitch. And that can, change a number of different things. It can change, like, escalate some tensions that might be on there. It could lead to some disciplinary issues. It could lead to fouls, people getting hurt. And they're not things that we want to see in the grassroots game. And I'm sure that no one wants to see any of those things in the grassroots game. But, so let's just say what one of the things that is a bit of a bear bug as well, or a bed bug, or a hard thing for coaches to to cope with. And if you ever look on a coaches group on Facebook or any other social medias as well, you'll always kind of see it. But I think that one of the, not really a harmful as well, but maybe a non-positive kind of comments or things that kind of happen as well, which can add some pressure, is probably overcoaching. I think that overcoaching as a parent, when you've got a coach on the other side, it can conflict with the coach's instructions. They've already sat down and had their little team talk. The players can get really confused with it. They'll get paralysed by and trying to analyse what they should be doing. So sometimes overcoaching from the sidelines. Positive reinforcement as well. Positive encouragement. But if you're overcoaching and telling your players or your children to do something, and the coaches are saying the opposite of that, maybe you don't agree with it, but just let the coach do the coaching. You do the enjoying side of it. And like I said, look, honestly, parents, you're all rock stars for taking all these children to grassroots games. Sometimes you can turn up to a venue and there might be 7, 8, 9 games going on at any one time, and then teams ready to go back on afterwards as well. So, hundreds of kids at some venues all waiting to get on and off pitches throughout a day, and they only really get there from you guys as well. So it's not a criticism, but maybe you don't always realise that you're doing that. But yeah, try not to do that. The same as sometimes they'll feel like maybe there's a bit of a pressure to perform, so maybe don't put too much pressure on the kids and the players to go and do what they're doing, which is going and enjoying their football. Ideally, they'll want to do that, but constantly shouting if they're doing something wrong, well, how are they going to feel? How would anyone feel really if they're getting shouted at constantly? Even if it's well meant, sometimes it can make children a bit anxious. It can make them feel embarrassed. It can make them not want the ball as well. So when we hear that call out as well, he don't want it. Maybe that is maybe the other team are working out, maybe they don't want it as well because their parents are shouting or they've heard it, and even though they meant it well, they put some pressure on that kid now and that player. So we're going to play everything at them, and they would get more anxious and won't want the ball, and that'll turn into them not enjoying the game as much either. So they're all really bad. And like I said, look, sometimes the negative behaviours that can sometimes come from the sidelines. Just remember that we're kind of role models for everyone that's on there. If there's a 7-a-side game going on as well, you're probably going to have, I don't know, maybe 20 children involved in that game. If we're criticising things like referees, what's that going to do? Well, it's probably going to set a bad example. What's going to happen? Well, maybe the players then going to start arguing with the referee. Then the referee's decision-making may be slightly different on the game because of, the criticism that they're also getting. And also just remember that sometimes if you are criticising a referee and they've got a red band on, they are also a child. So if they're also a child as well, let's not set bad examples for people to have a go at other children because, I'm sure their parents are not there, cheering every time that the whistle goes like you would be cheering if every time that you scored a goal as a team. So, but yeah, it could just really just escalate any kind of tensions on the pitch. So, I think that there are a couple of things. So what else is bad that parents also do? I suppose, trying to referee the game as well, trying to referee the game from the sideline, coach the game from the sideline as well, and also play with the game as if they're playing FIFA as well with a little remote control and they think that they're going to control everything. I suppose that they are also things that can really confuse players and can really make players feel a little bit anxious when they're there. Now, if you're a parent that sometimes does this, and I think this is the best thing to do, and this is what I've always found is great to do, is after the game, just sit in the car and just sort of say, how's game today? And just sit and listen and let them tell you, because they will tell you everything, especially the youngest ones. They'll always tell you everything if you just listen to them rather than tell them what you think that they needed to do. So, I think that would be a great thing to do as a parent as well. And, I think that can also bring them out of the shell a little bit. I don't think they always kind of get that. And I think that sometimes it'll just build their, if they've got all the positive side of things on the actual pitch, what they'll do is they will also bring that back home and they'll also deal with that and take that into training sessions too. So, everything's about positive reinforcement, parents. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat today a little bit. So do apologise if you keep hearing me coughing. But yeah, positive reinforcement. Let's take the negativity out of it too. Now, are parents, is it more helpful? Is it more harmful? Are we supportive or are we adding pressure? Look, that is not something that is a straight answer as it's everyone is positive, everyone is adding pressure, or everyone is supportive. It's not one of those things as well. It's your attitude and the way that you can deal with it. What I would say is encourage every person that's actually on the pitch. If you can encourage every single person that's on the pitch on both sides of the teams, then what you probably will find is that everyone is going to do better and everyone will enjoy it more. And if everyone enjoys the game more, that's better for everyone, right? So just the last little bit that we'll go on to before finishing this one is just from a coach's perspective too. So how can your sideline behaviours, how can that affect the team dynamics? Well, it can affect it in different ways. If you've got players that are upset, then you often have to make substitutions to bring them off, calm players down, make sure that they're okay. You're almost distracted as a coach because you're dealing with some of the team dynamics that are happening on the pitch that are done from the parents. And I've coached players before where their parents have shouted on and made them cry. And these are sort of like 8, 9, 10-year-olds. And I don't like that, and I've had to bring those players off and say to them, look, it's not, and I also, trying to make it out as a good thing, saying to the players, like, look, it's, they just want you to do well. They're just trying to get you to do well too. But I think you've done all these things and I've had to go back and do that. And that changes the team dynamics. If I've had to take players off and move them, sometimes I've got them in the right place at the right time for the right thing. And having to change it. But it also affects the communication that I can have with the players. Because if I'm telling them to do one thing or we've done something different and it might be a different stage in the game, we might be working on something. So I've had games before where, the game, we have a mini goal within the actual game that we're playing, and it might be like first and second contacts. So like, look, we're going to work much on first and second contacts. Well, what does that happen? When we do that, generally, especially for younger players, they can't work the timing quite outright and we end up giving a load of fouls away. So if we are giving a load of fouls away, not that they're bad fouls, but we're just working on first and second contact, and the parents don't know that, they'll constantly be thinking that we are not doing the right things that I would want them to do. Maybe we've put in some different things. Sometimes, I've coached games before where we've been winning by a huge number. So, to try and give ourselves an extra target as well as we've played back to the keeper every time. So, go back to the keeper as well. We're going to build out from the back every single time that we get the ball. Parents don't always see that as well, and they're telling their kids to start bombing it forwards because they want to be taking shots and we want to score more goals. And for some parents, they just want to win 20-0, because 5-0's not enough. So sometimes that can also really affect the coach's perspective and the team dynamics and kind of what we're looking for, but also it can also damage the communication between parents and coaches, in those WhatsApp groups, it's not always great. And, I suppose there's more politics go on in those things than anything else. But if you just let the coach do the coaching, parents just enjoy positive reinforcement, please, from a sideline. And also, just positive reinforcement for everyone else that's on the pitch too, because if everyone's thriving on the pitch, then they're going to get better competition. It's going to be better for everyone. Everyone's going to enjoy it. It's going to be loads better. So we'll just end this one then, just reinforce, look, honestly, parents, you're rock stars, but sometimes just make sure that everything's really, really positive to everyone that's there. So that includes the players, that includes the referee, that includes the other coaches, the other parents on the other side, the other team that your children are playing against. Try and make it really, really a good atmosphere for them to be able to play in. Don't add the pressure, let them play the games. And if you have a silent weekend initiative, okay, and you know that it's a silent weekend, try and stay nice and quiet, because it is a very, very, very difficult balance to get, because support is vital. Everyone wants support, everyone wants loads of goodness, and they want the cheering, they want the sportsmanship, they want the teamwork. They also want to have some instructions shouted as well, but venting in frustrations is not great as the part of the balanced approach, really. So until next time, which we are going to have a guest on the next episode, and it's also, I believe, I'm going to be able to do it so it's a visual, so it's not just audio. We're going to put the video in there too. So hopefully that'll be out next week. So, and in the meantime, if you've got anything that you want to email in, gofootballpod@gmail.com. It'll come straight through to me, and we'll put that onto one of the future episodes. So have a great weekend. Have a good games at football, especially if you're at any tournaments this weekend. And I will speak to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.